Welcome to my humble little office. My name is R. Keith Andrews. I'm a spiritual guide and paranormal adept. The journey continues today on February 23rd, 2024. I believe that's right. Yep. At approximately 4:31 p.m. PST. Now, I've returned to this world for one primary purpose, and that is to remind people that working together, we can make this a better world for virtually everyone. Now, I build myself as a spiritual guide because the tools I offer are the exact same tools I personally use in my day to day life. And the philosophies of life I talk about are the same philosophies I guide my virtually every move by. Now, I know these tools will work for you because they continue to work for me and have worked for literally thousands of other people, depending on their own, with varying degrees of success, depending on their own personal efforts. With this in mind, let's take a look at the creative principles of the neural net. Now, before we get into it, however, we have Steve Knox is in with the gold, and Storm and Shadow. Steve, how are things on your end? Nice to see you with us. And Storm and Shadow is in with the silver. And Storm, we have a lot of work ahead of us, but things are finally getting moving in the right direction. And in all fairness, a lot of it literally has to do with your efforts. Cowie, you are in with bronze. How are you doing? Hopefully your day is going well. I know things tend to get a little hectic around you. There's no question there. Hopefully it's getting hectic for you in a positive way, though. That would be nice, wouldn't it? Now, let's start with the obvious question. What is the neural net, from my understanding? Okay. And ultimately, it boils down to this. Everything in existence is connected. But we're going to stick to the third dimension. Okay, we're going to stick to the world that we live in. And here's the neat little kicker about it. There's a lot of questions out there. Are there other dimensions? Is there a multiverse? Are we going to be ascending to a new dimension? I will take a look at all that, but we got to understand the baseline first, because until we know where you're standing, until you know what you're actually dealing with, figuring out how to move forward is a royal pain. Okay, so how you got to where you are. Okay, how we doing, Joe? Glad you could join us. Hopefully, Joe, you are in, I believe, let me see here. Yep, you are in with honorable mention. And Joe, hopefully you got the replacement newsletter. I sent it out yesterday, I believe. Although in all fairness, it might have gone out first thing this morning. Now, the thing we have to remember with everything being connected, anything, in my experience, anything that you can sense in this world, in this lifetime, is third dimensional. Things vibrate at different rates, yes. And this may be where part of the discrepancy comes in. It is possible, and something I've been playing around with, that when people are talking about a new dimension, they may simply be referring to what I call a different vibratory rate. Okay, because once you vibrate fast enough, you become invisible to the naked eye. Okay, same thing applies to the faster you vibrate, you can pass through something else of an apparently solid object. Now, there is a saying that goes, it says no man, but we'll go with no one is an island unto themselves. Everything you do, everything that you experience is connected to other people and other things, no matter how you look at it. One of the things that I have discovered is this. The neural net, in other words, the connection between your thinking mind and the next individual's, which, by the way, does not mean a brain like a human's brain. Anything that is living has a neurology to it. This is just something that I've come to understand over the years. LA, how you doing? Hopefully you're feeling better. I know you're on the upswing. That's the easy part. And boy, do we got a lot of work to do. Okay. And yes, one thing is for certain, LA, when I get down to Texas later this year, we're going to correct a few things that are running around that you've seen in your world. And yes, when I talk about correcting, I don't mean that they're wrong so much as they aren't meshing as well as you might like. This is what we're doing here, is how does the neural net actually connect? Well, whenever you think of anything, now people talk about change being painful, change being difficult, change being complicated. I'm telling you, if you're not writhing in pain right now, change is occurring all the time. And if you're not writhing in pain right this moment, you're going through change every time you have a different thought, every time you hear something different or you feel something different. It's one constant in the universe. It's one constant in all of creation, that being change. Now you have, and everyone has free will and free choice. What none of you have, myself included, God himself included, whatever you want to call it, literally everything has free will and free choice. What you don't have is freedom from consequence. Oh, wow. Well, there's a shock. Joe's just letting us know he found out the other day the cemetery is haunted in the daytime. I take it this means we've had a daytime sighting at this point. Things are changing very quickly, but now with what happened to me, with what happened to me, and I'll just give this to you really short, the real short Reader's Digest version. Okay. Back in 1986, my doctor turned around and said, and applied for me to get on to medical disability because of tearing my leg apart when I was a kid. Now, about 4 or 5 years ago, my current accountant at the time discovered I'd already been listed as permanently disabled. Now, you may figure that the government takes forever and a day because they take a couple of months. Okay. Well, get this. In all that time, I never received a single dollar in disability. However, as of this morning, 37 years later, they've got me listed that I'm going to be starting to get a paycheck now. Now, what this means from that standpoint, number one, the government, real slow. Do not ask how it took 37 years. Sorry, that's somebody else's department. Remember that thing about my researching? Now, you desire to change something in your life, and I'm laying odds, I'm laying odds, dollars to donuts. Most of you have that. Most of you have something in your life that you're not content with. Okay, so how about if we take a look at it? And just pick one thing you're not content with. Just one. Okay. Do not worry about what it's going to look like. Good luck with the not worrying thing. Do your best not to worry about what your life is going to look like a year down the road. Let's look at what it looks like right this second, and let's start making adjustments. Okay. Now, I take a look at this and go, okay, my world has to change. Okay. Primarily because it's going to anyway. The question is not, is your world going to change? The question is, how are you going to guide that change? Now, remember, I mentioned everything you do affects everybody around you. Well, get this. Everything the people around you do. Yep, that's right. Everything the people around you do, and whether that's thinking about doing something, doesn't matter. the second they make a change, it's going to affect your life. So the question is, what do you do with that? Now, let me ask you, we'll just go to the obvious, physical, easy thing. Okay, you're walking along, just picture this for a second. You're walking along, you got a bag full of groceries or a bag full of, bundle of stuff in your hand, and you're approaching a door that is closed. How do you feel when you watch people walk through that door and leave the door and let the door swing shut behind them without paying attention to what you're going, without paying attention to what you're carrying? Okay, now compare that feeling to that one person that turns around and holds the door open for you so you can go through it. This behavior on their part is certain to have an impact on the way you feel. Well, the same thing applies if you're walking towards a door and you see somebody coming up behind you. Okay, and all it takes, okay, well, that's not a cell phone, but it gives you the idea. All it takes is certainly use your phones. Go right ahead. Okay, but keep moving your head around and watch the things around you. Okay, you see somebody coming up behind you. Okay, towards the door. Does it really take a lot to pause for a moment and hold that door open? And like I said, look at how you feel when the two examples are put to use. Because that stranger's treatment of you is certain. I know in my case, somebody holds the door open for me. I smile very nicely, do my best to smile nicely. I've got a terrible smile. But I do my best to smile nicely and say thank you. That simple 2-word magic word, the ultimate in magical creativity. 3 words. Thank you. Well, 3 phrases really. Thank you is one of them. Whenever you talk to somebody, whenever they do something nice for you, or it doesn't matter how big it is, holding a door is a thank you. Okay, asking how you're feeling. Answer and say thank you for asking, something to this effect. I know it's foreign to a lot of people in today's world, but in the world I came from, when I was growing up, you said thank you whenever it fit. Anytime you asked a question or asked somebody to do something for you, you always said please, as often as you could. Now, I still do my best. I'm not perfect at it. But when you're using these simple magic words, they create an energy of, quite literally, of thankfulness, of well-being. You say thank you to somebody, just like if somebody says thank you to you, you're going to feel better. Okay. And, some of you will say, oh, I don't notice any difference. But look in your heart. Look in the way your mind works. Okay. You may not respond to it. You may not necessarily recognize it. Okay. But that simple, polite response, is a trigger for what's going through your brain. Now, you got to remember, energy comes up from up here. In amongst the ethereal, in amongst what you may call your higher self or your spiritual connection. Maybe you call it your God source. There's a lot of different terms for it. All of them result in the same thing. That feeling, that thought, that emotion starts here, hits either your heart first or your head first. In either event, when both are connected, when your mind can conceive it and your heart can believe it, you can achieve it. So we have these two little phrases, please and thank you. Absolutely imperative we start utilizing them. Don't take my word for it. Give it a shot and see what happens. When dealing with people, and this has been proven and reproven time and again over the centuries, whenever you're aiming at dealing with people in any sort of an environment, the most powerful word available on in the spoken language or for that matter in any language, is that individual's name. And unlike with the idea of gamers, we're not talking the true name. We are talking about the name that you respond to. Now, some of you will be going by your birth name. Some of you have legally changed your name for something different. Some of you may simply have developed a nickname via other people. Utilizing a name when you're talking to somebody in the appropriate points. Appropriate being, make sure you don't clunk over it. Now what do we got here? Going way up here, and now we gotta find this. And we go Shadow and Sun. Where the heck are you? This is the link to Shadow and Sun's live stream. So absolutely drop in, give him a listen. If you like what he has to say, come right out and give him a thumbs up. Do subscribe to the channel and share the daylights out of the thing. It is this sharing of links, this sharing of ideas that is going to drive this world into an all-new high. This is where we, as a community, the people in the family in this chat room, whether you're in here speaking or just in the listening audience, doesn't matter. You're still part and parcel of the family. Let me see here. If we can go there. No, let's not do that. There we go. And we scroll down there. Now, yeah, Shadow, no doubt there at all. Shadow goes one big, kooky, dysfunctional family. Kind of like what they said in Expendables 3. Minus the swearing. But this is, we all come from a different walk of life. We all come from our own life. Every one of you, but you'll find, and I have found, looking and talking to some of you guys directly, seeing the responses in the chat room, you guys all interact. And the nice part about it is in here, and there is no reason to believe that this can't to functionally believe, this kind of behavior cannot be replicated in the physical world. Well, it depends on what you call swearing there, Shadow. The way I figure it, swearing is just the fact I don't do a lot of it. Doesn't mean I'm going to close my ears because somebody did. It's not like, oh my God, you said a swear word. Not going to happen. Let's see if I can disintegrate my innards. But every one of us comes from a different place. But you'll notice there is a commonality. No matter what race you are, no matter what species you are, there is a commonality. Now, we know this if we look at the simple side of it. If you've got a pet, then frankly, take a look at the way you treat said pet. If you treat them well, they will treat you well. This is because you're on the same wavelength. You're literally connected to the same neural net. Now, we've already got the please and thank you. We've got this neat little idea of use somebody's name. It is the most powerful way of getting somebody's connection, somebody's attention. Now, I tend to stick to the names that people put in the chat room because, frankly, it's easier. And besides that, especially with this live stream, if I'm repeating somebody, oh, why not, Storm? I mean, if you think about it, maybe if Shadow hangs with some of the so-called high dollar types, maybe they'll learn something from him. What do we do? Oh, I have looked at some of them. I can't tell you right offhand. I've looked at them there, Shadow. And I'll have to get back to go through them a little more in detail. My stress level until today has been absolutely off the charts. But right now, they are stored in a nice little file so I can track them down like that. I'm just not about to do so while I'm on stream here. But what I will do, as a matter of fact, what did I do with it? Get that out of the way. Whole bunch of stuff I'm working on there. But because of the fact I finally got things sorted around, yeah. Sean goes, oh, I don't know about that. Yo, what I found is many people, myself included, that come from, if you will, a less financially provocative standpoint. It's actually the people that have the lower levels of income that end up actually understanding life far more than the people with the higher incomes. And here's why. When you're used to struggling, you all of a sudden, you'd find, first of all, we never notice a financial depression because you're always fighting for survival. The world goes, oh, we're going into a financial crisis. And you're going, so what's different about today that didn't happen yesterday? The neural net literally means everything that's going on around you is going to have an impact. Now, let me see here. Gotta make this. Oh, I will absolutely take the time to look at them. I know that in like 20 minutes I can usually manage. Now that I've got the finances out of the way, now I can literally turn things around. What do I got here? Shadow's going, my son worked very hard on them and would love to get your opinion. I will absolutely do that and do so. I've literally, because I did look at them, but did I make a lot of notes on them? The answer is no. I have been so caught up in this whole thing of how the heck am I going to survive the next month? Understanding that I've been living paycheck to paycheck for almost 61 years. Now I'm finally starting to figure that out. Where are we? Now, the good news there, Shadow. You'll notice, I don't expect you to read it, okay? But you'll notice I got one thing on the list right now. That's right here. That item right now says Shadow videos. Whoops. I can't even read my own writing. Oh, videos downloaded. Report to creator. What that tells me, this is why what that tells me is, first of all, I gotta slow down my writing. Oh, I don't. I make it up as I go along. I just take hints. I swear, if you look at my handwriting in person, you'd swear I was actually a doctor. But with that in mind, the neural net is very simple. Do you like the world the way it is right this moment? I do not mean the whole global thing. I mean the way your world is looking right now in your personal environment. Okay. Oh, okay. I've got you on site here. Give me 10 seconds, Shadow. We got a very important, interesting question here. Very important from my standpoint, not necessarily yours. Okay, we are back. Like I said, Shadow, and this, guys, is why I said, this is why I said everything is connected. Now, Shadow, I just picked up, and I literally just picked it up today. Okay, I'm pretty certain you've seen one like this. No, it doesn't have the heads attached. Here's the kicker. Okay, that is the Hydra. Okay, now, I've already got one with 5 heads, but I've got all these split heads, dual heads, these things. Here's the kicker, and you can't see it on this screen. The holes that they've got in the ends, they're supposed to be it's supposed to be the tongue and groove issue to put the heads on. But I'm looking at the holes they've got and the stub they've got to pop in. Is there a way of clearing up that hole to make it possible to insert without destroying the model? Or is it more an issue? I didn't even know it came from WizKids, in all fairness. Is there a way when you get something like this, is there a way to clear out the hole to make the tongue fit a little bit more effectively? Okay. I'm looking at it going, there's got to be a way, but I'm not entirely certain. Oh, okay. Thank you very much, Shadow. I've got a couple of those already. That's what I was kind of figuring. Of course, there's a neat little trick there. Mind you, the one little catch is this. Okay, if I relax, this is my left hand doesn't work well enough to do it at all. But if I relax my hand, my concentration, this is where it gets to be really fun. But now that I've got the financial problem out of the way, yeah, just be careful. Those are very sharp. That's the idea of a razor blade, I think. But that's what I will end up doing. I was thinking that I may have to, just shear off the nub itself and then just glue it and hold it in place using crazy glue. But I don't know if crazy glue is the best bet. Matt Geek, how you doing? Glad you could join us. Now, see, here's the kicker. When we're talking about the neural net, we are talking about reaching out to everybody you can. Talk to the people that have done it successfully before. Okay, if you're striving to do something, talk to somebody that's done it successfully. And I will tell you, just hanging around them, some of this information will rub off. Okay, you'll pick it up just in simple conversations going on. The real creative capacity of this whole thing is this. Now, I asked a question. Okay, I clearly am not going to do this here. But I asked a question. You don't get answers on the whole if you don't ask. Okay, now, my responsibility is to take that information that I've got off the net. Okay, and I'm not talking about the computer net. I'm talking about the neural net, which is so much faster than the computer ever has been. Okay, but you take that information and put it to use. Yeah, this is something that's going to be rather an interesting little situation. There's a lot of changes coming. Okay, but it's time we get ahead of the curve. And the way we do that is we take a look in this room. This is a microcosm. Okay, this is just a tiny example of what is really happening in this world. Okay, so one of the biggest things here, because, and this is just a side effect, finances came into an interesting twist at this point. The side effect is I now have more time to really look at my world and not just the issue of how the heck do I manage to keep a roof over my head. come to think of it. And like I said, Shadow, I do have starting to watch your videos is the starting point. Get that back over here. Pop that in there. Okay. But I am behind the 8 ball in a lot of things. But now it's time to start making them. Making them happen, that is. Take that and pop that there. Now that's number 1. Okay. Now, what do we got? Don't go too young, though. You know, Shadow's going, he's looking for a couple more voice actors. That said, absolutely. You know, Shadow's got his own stream, so drop onto his stream if you're interested in becoming a voice actor. Okay. Understand something. All voice actors have to start somewhere. Becoming a voice actor for Shadow and Sons production may be just the kicker you need, just that gateway to get the attention of the people that pay really big bucks for exactly the same thing, to get you that visibility. Okay. Now, the fact of the matter is, in Shadow's world, in Shadow's community, Shadow is a big name. In my world, I'm a big name. In my world, I'm a bit of a lunatic, but I'm not sure if I should call myself a lunatic, which insinuates time around the moon, or a solitic, meaning it takes place during the day. I'm not sure. I'm pretty much the same way all the time. Oh, now where in this world, Shadow, does your son, by any chance, think he's going to find adults? That ought to be an interesting trick. Robert White, how you doing? Glad you could join. Glad you could join us. Yeah, Robert goes, hello, hello, hello. How is everyone today? In my world, I am the ruler of the almond ward. Now, do you make butter out of your almonds? I'm still trying to figure out how you take a nut and turn it into butter, but then I've never researched it. But the neural net is simple. You think about it, that thought goes out around the world. This is how you explain why across the world, around the world, inventions have come up via multiple people on multiple continents, even when they've never talked to each other. The moment you have a thought, that thought gets fired into the neural net. Sooner or later, somebody's going to pick it up. Okay. In my case, I'm looking at it going, if you can sort out my mind, you're ahead of the game. You're further ahead than I am, that's for certain. One of the biggest things I have come to understand is real simple. If you desire your life to change, it is critical you start acting on your thoughts. Do keep them positive, please. Okay, Shadow goes, he's already found 2. He and I hang out with a sizable YouTube community full of former actors and ex-military type gamers who are very happy to help a young movie director and writer. I think that is absolutely fantastic. See, the neat part about it with social media expanding the way it is, we got to realize, that what used to be just for the bigwigs is now being turned over to the youngsters, to the newcomers. Okay, this is why I look at what I'm doing and I go, I'm going to do something bigger than what I've got. You know, oh, Joe goes, if the sun were to explode in our atmosphere as we speak, what would be the ramifications of that happening? Well, life as you know would cease to exist, although life would continue. Okay. I'll tell you, we'd all of a sudden have one heck of a party going on in purgatory, or in what you call purgatory, what you may call purgatory. Oh, where are we? Okay. Shadow, would you be kind enough to pop that link up? Okay, to your son's channel. I mean, quite frankly, like I said, the more we can help each other, the better this world is going to become. You know, the reality of it is when the computer was designed, when this physical computer was designed, it was designed, as far as I understand it, based on the way the human brain works. The neat part about it, and thank you very much for that, Shadow. The neat part about that is this. Okay, the human brain still works faster than the computer does. But for purposes of discussion, this works out really well. Since corporeals are not currently actively, consciously, telepathically connected, making connections through YouTube, through whatever social media is available, is our next step. Okay. Now the neat part about it, I'm starting to see. I'm gonna have to slap myself in the back of the head to stop from stuttering, or stumbling over my words. I'm not sure which. Either that or I need more coffee. But I'm starting to find all kinds of people that are connected and that have their own little industries, their little pocket industries that they are in the middle of striving to build. Okay. And it's going to be those changes that are going to make this world a better world. Whoop. See, my problem is I can't speak clearly to start with. You know, this is why I've got other people doing it. But like you, Shadow, in time, I'm going to be requiring, because I'm going to expand things. There's no question there. But so many people all of a sudden are coming up with the same idea. Let's get our own, you know, let's get our own, let's get our own little industries up and running in full swing. Okay. Yes, there's a lot of huge industries out there. They got a big name. But how did they get that big name? By spreading the word. By doing it, it didn't start off as a multi-billion-dollar industry. It started off as a cottage industry. Or maybe not an industry, maybe just a hobby. Okay, so we're starting small. And I'll tell you, one of the things I'm going to be doing here, and I've got to do it over on the net there. I'm going to be drawing a pictographical net showing, okay, here, and I will start with Inner Voice Enterprises at the middle, okay, at the heart of it, just because my world, my hub, okay, but I'm going to start tracking who's got what industry where and start getting them listed so I can literally look at it. Oh, it's not a question did the link work, it's a question of the link isn't showing up in here. Yldrbac, how you doing? Glad you could join us. So I'm looking at this. As a matter of fact, I've got to do, what do we got here? Trying to scramble back up here. Called the fourth agenda. Gotta mark this issue down. Okay, it is a question of me starting to literally find the links between people. Okay, what do we got here? I am curious. Let us see what happens if we go tickety and we go. Let us see here. I'm literally just looking this up. See if it actually pops. There we go. Now I gotta get back into that. Now let us see if we hit link, if we hit control, click, see what pops. No, I didn't want that tab. Thank you very much. Control. I don't like that. Drop those two out of sync. What do we got here? See, there is so much that can happen here. And again, one of the things with the neural net is this. Somebody says something and all of a sudden all kinds of ideas pop up. Okay. Often in multiple people at the same time. The thing people don't realize on the whole, at least this seems to be the case, it seems to be the situation, is when we look at communication, people have a tendency of going, we're talking about the words. It's not just the words. It's a feeling, it's a sight, it's a sound, it's the smells that are triggered by memory. All of these things are connected. And the more senses we can tie in, the better off we are. Like the more complete the picture. Now the thing is, by building on ideas, what do we got here? Yldrbac. Now, gonna have to wait for that to pop a little. The thing is, the neural net is the way that we can change things. If we leave this to the people we call the elites, we call the leaders of this world, we are quite frankly condemning ourselves to this neat little problem. of going, they are dictating how your world is going to run. Now, I will tell you, you've got to work inside the system that is already in place. We've got to find a way to communicate with each other to enhance our own self-image, if you will. Okay. And I will tell you from practical experience, literally the requirement of survival will dominate and decimate your individual drive, because you're worried about having a roof over your head, about having food on your table. You're not thinking clearly. I'll tell you that right off the bat. Now, again, you don't have to believe me, but do yourself a favor. In this case, I suggest you take my word for it, unless you've been through it yourself, at which point you've already got the experience. But if you've had the pleasure of having the finances and having the food on your table consistently, don't try experiencing not having it. It's not a real fun thing. Yeah, Shadow goes, I was born in 1967, so it's amazing I still remember him. But my mom had one of his books. And I'm not sure what that word should have been. Oh, that should be, and I'll remember him. The neat part about it, Shadow, is we remember a lot of things from our childhood that we may not think we remember. But what happens is somebody says something about a childhood time, all of a sudden the memories come back in full swing. Okay, that is the power of the neural net, because it taps into what you already have experienced. I agree with you wholeheartedly there, LA. I have not been forced. Thankfully, not going to try it. Thanks very much. I never was forced to live on the street. Okay. But I'll tell you, I cut it awful tight. Now, if assuming that what has happened today works properly, I will start to see a steady incline in my income. Okay, in my bank account. Okay. The funny thing is, I talked to a guy one day. And when I talked to him, he was a multimillionaire. And the guy looks at me and he goes, I've been miserable poor and I've been miserable rich. Hands down, I would rather be miserable rich. Okay. Now, I've done the walking the edge of poverty. Okay. I've done it. I've experienced it. I've done the worry. Am I going to have food for tomorrow? Okay. Thankfully, I've managed to pull through, usually with help from somebody else. And yes, very reluctant myself to accept help, but I will tell you, those of you that have reached out have been absolutely mind-bogglingly helpful. Too bad it took me so long to figure out that accepting help from somebody is not a sign of weakness. It is a sign of strength. Okay, for those of you that have lived on the edge, have had your time with poverty, now is the time to start changing it. And I am going to put this to you directly, LA, because I've got things in the work. And I know you stand on, I know we've had conversations about the whole thing, but I am gearing up to do something. And when I set it in motion, do me a favor, just smile, say thank you, and put it where it needs to go, which does not include going back to me, at least not in that fashion. Okay, and by the way, that goes for each and every single one of you out there. I've got a very definitive plan set up in my own hand, and I'm working on putting it on paper now. But now I can focus properly, because the biggest draw on my life is gone. Okay, the biggest draw being the biggest holdup was my trying to figure out, am I going to have money to pay my rent, to keep my lights on? Okay, With that gone, I can now start planning what I require to make things happen. Okay, it also, in theory, and I'll call it in theory because it's the first time I've ever been in this boat. Okay, in theory, it will mean that my stress level collapses, my energy level climbs, and away I go. Okay, with that in mind, the more energy I generate, and get this, you're gonna love this one. As you heal, the negative components of your life are going, and those are the little molecules, the little atoms in your life that are screwed up, that are not working in tandem. They are going to let go of more electrons from their existence, thereby creating a staggering amount of energy available for everyone that is connected to the net. Okay, let me ask you this. Can you see yourself being successful? Okay, can you see yourself being more successful than you have been? And I don't mean, can you buy a brand new car for everybody? When I first got married to my first wife, she asked for a car for Christmas. Well, you just have to think a little outside the box. She was really hung up on the idea of a Mustang. And I kid you not, I didn't have much money to my name. Okay. But I bought her a Mustang for Christmas. Okay. Brand spanking new. Never been driven. Okay. Now you'd think that I think it was a 1977 Mustang. I'm not entirely certain what year it was now. But she wanted a Mustang. So I bought her a brand spanking new Mustang. Okay. Now here's the thing. Mustang, you think big car, lots of power, lots of expenses, etc., etc. I picked it up for a steal at about $1.50. And I don't mean $150. Now, I am talking about 30 years ago, so things were a little cheaper. But I spent about $1.50 on it, and I got her a Christmas gift. And we put a Mustang under the car, underneath the tree. Now, this is why you gotta think outside the box. She asked for a Mustang. I got her a car that long. It was the year she was looking for. It was a Mustang. Okay. Now, granted, she couldn't drive it, but the reality is she didn't have a driver's license anyway and couldn't drive to start with. Okay. And here we have the nature of the net. Shadow goes, we're looking for voice actors. And we already have somebody in the chat room, in this case Storm, going, I'd love to give him a hand. Okay. And the band, it was actually a matchbox there, Shadow. I don't know if she still has it. Manifesting is tricky. And the more specific you are, okay. Well, what I found there in LA, and correct me if I'm wrong on that, if you've had different experience, but when you're being real specific, there are ways to screw it up. But being too general creates a lot of room for interpretation. So I'm looking at it going, okay, I now have my office sorted out where I know what I'm looking at. Okay, here we are. This isn't what they used to call gut rot, but this is what that is. It'll rot your gut. But I now have a fully cleared office desk. Okay, now it's time to start building on it. It's time to start finding the connections. And here's the way that works. Well, I'm not going to drag it out because I don't feel like getting up and dragging it out. But you've seen me use a whiteboard before. Okay. Actually, that would be the logical place to put it, is right there. I'm going to build a business net. And what I mean by that is if you guys have a business or a neat little project that you're striving to turn into a source of income. We're going, and I can't do it right. I haven't got the time to set it up right now without getting really lost. Nope, not that. Where did I put it? Is that? Nope. Okay, I gotta figure out what the heck I did with it. But, well, here. This is being destroyed. This is what I was working on before. But I'm going to turn around and take another sheet and pop it on here. And we're going to start to see that net grow. Okay. And the way I figured is this. Okay. By putting it up there, we can remember who has what on the go. Where are we? Yeah, Storm goes, manifesting is like casting a wish in D&D with a sadistic dungeon master. If you're not real careful, real effing careful, it will bite you in the, I did that to a chap. I was running a solo campaign and a guy wished for a Vorpal blade. He goes, I wish for a Vorpal blade in my hand. Well, that was great. So I sort of did that for him. He had his hand out, and I dropped the Vorpal blade, so it landed here. Okay. He ended up with the Vorpal blade. Of course, it cost him a limb, but, what the heck? Well, hand anyway. Yeah, that's why, and that's just it. Ellie goes, boy, that can be the truth of it. Remember when I needed a high chair for Ellie, and a dull high chair showed up. And, that's the thing. When we are building things, be as clear as possible. The more senses you can involve, the better the outcome. Okay. So this is why I am now starting, and it's something that just came to mind here. Okay. Literally came to mind while I was on stream. We start finding out who's working on what. We start pooling our energetic resources. This does not mean everybody sinks a whole pile of money into stuff. Okay, this means the emotional and vocal support and encouragement, the exact same thing that you guys utilized, quite frankly, unrequested, but very much appreciated, whenever I ran into a snag going, I don't know if I can continue this. Okay. And you guys stepped up to the plate and went, this is how we can do it. And now all of a sudden I've got people in the background going, here's what we can do. Here's how we can make this change. So things are going to shift. It's that simple. The question is, are we going to make it happen together? Or are we going to continue to let the so-called elites, the so-called powerhouses out there, dictate how we see the world, how we see our own success? I'll tell you, I have never felt this energetic since I got that little phone call, that little letter saying, oh, by the way, you've now been approved. You now have a stable cash flow. Yeah, Ellie goes, sometimes it takes a total meltdown to get things out of the way to success. Absolutely. And I will tell you, the first step to success is the easy one. Okay. It's the one everybody makes. The second one is when you go to make that next step. That's usually a case of catching your footing. The third one is the difficult one, because that's the one where you got your balance and now you decide, am I going to walk forward into success, or am I going to sit on my tail feathers and blame somebody else for it not happening? Okay. This is the thing that I would love to see various different little startup projects take place in people's lives. Not the startups I personally say you got to do, because you don't got to do jack that you don't choose to. Just remember, you've got free choice. You've got free will. What you don't have is freedom from consequence. Okay. So when we start talking about different dreams, when you take inspiration from somebody's idea or from somebody's concept, all of a sudden you end up with a real neat situation. Now, I got a bizarre question for you, Shadow. Um, and I use his name, I think, and correct. Don't take offense to this if I get it wrong. But is it, I think your son's name is Jack. That said, hopefully that's his name. Do you know how big Jack would like to make this studio? How big he considers successful? Jackson, thank you so much. Does Jackson do you know how big he thinks will indicate success for him, not for anybody else? Yeah. Shadow goes, sky's the limit. Bonus. My dad always told me, okay, my dad always told me, I tell you, I stumble over my words, which is why I don't read out loud. He always told me, shoot for the stars. You may only hit the moon, but you're still off the planet. Okay. And I'm telling you, dream big, dream huge. In my eyes, the bigger you can dream, the better off you are. Okay. Then it stops you from shorting yourself. In my eyes, I've got a massive project ahead of me. Some of you know how big it is. Some of you'll just have to let your imagination go. But as we evolve, as things change. Christine, how we doing? Glad you could join us. And woo, you are back in the house. How we doing? Dream big. Take a look at where you are and understand one little itty bitty issue. Okay. Man is not entirely judged by the height to which he climbs, so much as from the depth from which by the depth from which he has climbed. In my case, the lowest I got, before things finally turned, was down to $624.95 available. Okay, now it's starting to climb. Okay, tonight when I get done this stream, I've got a few things I've got to get done. One of the biggest ones is literally go in and go, okay, you take a look at the finances, not because finances are the most important thing. The most important thing in your life, in anybody's life, is you. Okay, now bear in mind that applies to every one of you. Okay, I have to be the most important in my life. Cowie has to be the most important in his life. Okay, etc., etc. Hence karmic law. Be true to yourself first. Don't take my word for it. Look at your own experience. Have you been being true to you? Okay. Have you been taking care of your requirements before taking care of everybody else's? Now, I'm behind the eight ball on a number of things, most of which are taking care of my own. But with this in mind, I now have things set in motion. Okay, and I've now got the energy to really get up and go, okay, this is what's happening. And I kid you not, and you get to experience this one. Okay, when I say I'm taking every one of you to the top with me, if you're willing to put the work in to your own life, not your work into my life. Okay, I mean, don't get me wrong. I am absolutely open to anybody handing me money. I have never turned money down. Okay. On the other hand, I've never sold myself out for money. I had a Hollywood producer come to me one day and go, we'd like to tell your life story, but we want all these abilities to change it and rights and what have you. I went, not going to happen. They went, but you don't know the money you're giving away. I looked at him and I said, I know exactly how much money I'm giving away. What you don't get is I don't care. Now, that being said, what I do care about at this point is I'm moving into a level of unprecedented in my life prosperity. And I will be danged since I've been told that it's lonely at the top. I will be absolutely danged if I'm going to leave everybody behind. I figure if it's actually lonely at the top, that if you take people with you, you won't be so lonely. Okay, this is why when I go down to Reno, am I going to be meeting new people there, as in physically for the first time? I may meet some of you down there. I don't know. Okay, because I don't know if any of you guys are actually going. I do know in the case of LA and Storm, I'm going to go out of my way. Well, I'm really not going out of my way. Yeah, Robert goes, it's lonely. It's lonelier alone than at the bottom or top. Absolutely. Now the reality is, because of the way I shut myself down, I blocked everything out. Okay. Not only did I walk away from society, I walked away from life. I am no longer interested in doing that, which is why once I get done with Reno, I start planning immediately for a trip down to the States. Okay, down to see LA and Storm. And that's probably where that's going to end. Sure, seize the throat, there's an idea. But never in my life can I recall a time when I was feeling this pumped about a change in my life. And this is something I desire to show you guys. Now, here's the thing. If we take a look at the energy around me, and it spreads out and it infects each and every one of you, so you all of a sudden get this idea, hey, I've had struggles of my own. I've had troubles. I've had setbacks all over the place. But dagnabbit, I can actually kick myself loose of it. If this works in that fashion, it really boils down to whether or not you tap into it. Okay. The reality is, if that is the way things work, tap into the energy, borrow it. You cannot deplete energy. You will not destroy it. Yeah, Robert, and that I absolutely loved. Okay. The fact that I saw that, and I saw your walk there. And I mean, it's great. So, Robert, when do you start running and training for the marathon? Well, it was just a thought. You would have loved it there, Robert. My brother, he's passed away a decade ago now, more than a decade. He passed away more than a decade ago. He used to teach rehab for kids, for people that were quadriplegic, so they could live on their own. But his motivational method, when he had a paraplegic that was stuck in a wheelchair, if they wouldn't get into the wheelchair, because it's too hard, it's too difficult. Okay. My brother would steal their wheelchair and hide it on the other side of the room. Just simply as motivation. Now, here's the thing. I'm not promising you jack sheep, except I will not lie to you to make you feel better. However, I will absolutely share what information, what insights I can, whether they are gleaned by people offering it to me. Yeah, Robert goes, probably when I get a bladed leg. Robert, aren't you supposed to get a bladed leg for post-apocalypse, not for daytime travel? Now, maybe I'm a little twisted on that. I don't know. It was just a thought on my part. But, blame my gaming side on that one. Or blame that on my gaming side, take your pick. Okay. But I am now starting to, interesting, voice cracked. Oh no, I'm growing up. My voice is cracking. But if we tap into everybody's enthusiasm, we take a look at Robert here. Okay. And Robert has been very clear cut. Here's the journey I'm going through. I'm now learning to walk. I'm getting out of the wheelchair. That is drive that is rarely sorted around. Yeah, no doubt. Yeah. Robert goes, then I could go from battle email name to Blade without Wesley Snipes. The neat part about it is we tap into each other's energy. I'm reticent to start pointing out what I've seen that people have done until it becomes public. But it's time we start acknowledging where true strength is being shown in individual lives. This idea of going, oh, our world is a mess. The more we focus on the mess the world is in, the more of a mess it creates. That's the beauty and the horror of the neural net. Whatever you focus on, that's what you're generating. Okay. Now, I'm not oblivious to the fact that the world has its problems, but I will tell you, if we've got 100 million people involved in in wars around the world, let's just assume we got 100 million people all over the world combined involved in war. Okay. Now, how many of the remaining 7.9 billion people have we got involved in celebrations, in weddings, in celebrations, weddings, graduations, all sorts of reward ceremonies? Okay. Out of those 700 million, those 7.9 billion people, how many are enjoying the fruits of their success? And bear in mind, a child that is just learning to walk, and oddly enough, Robert, you can probably relate to this all over again. And let's face it, if you remember learning to walk in the first time, this becomes a really bad trip down memory lane. Okay, now let us see here. Just hit refresh there because I want to. Now, as you've seen, I'm just looking, I refreshed to see what was going on. But here's the neat thing. Well, hey. There we go. Here's the neat thing. We hit 600 yesterday. We're down 1 today, but it'll bounce back and forth over that line. Okay, the subscription level. But we are growing. Okay, every one of you has a project in your own world that you are working on. What happens to your ability to focus on that goal? Okay, if people come in on a regular basis and go, hey, how is this progressing? From my end, it's real simple. We've got a number of extremely creative people here. It is time to start focusing on that. Yes, focus on the creativity out there in the world out there. Absolutely. And this is why I say, if you hear of something that is of a positive nature, I haven't put it all together yet. Where are we? The 23rd. Bonus. So I've still got 6 days to get finished. That works out too. One of the biggest things we got to remember is put your talents to work. Like I was asked today. I was literally asked, we got the news that finances were dealt with. The first question I got asked is, what is your passion? My passion is simple. It's writing. Okay. Second to that would be helping other people, either self-improvement or escapism. Okay, I'm a gamer at heart. Okay, I started playing Dungeons and Dragons when I was 13 years old. Okay. Yeah. When I was 13 years old, I started playing Dungeons and Dragons. And I am still to this day playing twice to three, 1 or 2 times a week, average. Okay. To this day. That being said, I'm about to embark on the biggest adventure of my entire life. Not my entire existence. I've done some absolutely bizarre things there. But I'm going to take this tiny little office here and I'm going to turn it into something absolutely huge. Okay, I've already got somebody starting to design. My printer that's done the designs on many of my book covers is already working on the design for positive perspectives to take a change. Okay, because I figure I got looking at it and went, okay, what is the difference between the talent you have and pick a mogul in the industry that you got talent in? Okay, what's the difference between them and you? What is the difference between, and this is going to sound, I hate putting myself in this category, but let me ask you this. Does anybody recognize a similarity between YouTubers and televangelists? Aside from YouTubers don't tend to go, oh, God's going to take me home if you don't give me lots of money. Okay. God doesn't care how much money you've got. Some of the happiest people I've ever seen in my life didn't have two nickels to rub together. Okay. But we used to have people all over the world going, we're going to, well, we still have going, well, we're all going to die. The world's falling apart. Now we got people going, hey, watch while I blow up the world while I'm playing this video game. Now, it's the same thing. You got somebody sitting in front of a computer, okay, in front of a camera, going, here's the way I see the world. Okay, now I will tell you, I've got a much brighter outlook on the world now that that nasty little stress of money has been sort of put aside. I mean, things are changing, only now it's time to pour gas in the tank and make it happen. And Shadow, and maybe it's Storm more to the point, no throwing a firecracker into the gas tank. This does not help a lot. Okay, unless you're trying to blow the tank up. The neat little part about it from the world and that I'm looking at is we've got a choice here. We've got comparatively, a very small community, but it's time to make it happen. Well, Robert, there was a guy, and I don't know where he lived. Okay, I saw this on the Darwin Awards. There was a gentleman that was trying to siphon gas, and he used a lighter to see if there was gas in the tank. I'm not sure it was a real brilliant idea. Okay, and I mean, there are some pretty dense ideas we can come up with. I remember we ran out of lighter fluid one day when I was still married. My wife went in to get the dinner, and we had run out of lighter fluid. So she's inside. I took care of the lighter problem. I took a quart canning jar, and I filled it about half full of gasoline, and then I dropped a few briquettes in it. Well, that is true, LA. She goes, it was brilliant, all right. The flash was amazing. So I put a couple of briquettes into the gasoline, left them soak for 5 minutes. My wife came out and I'd already finished pulling them out, and I took these couple of briquettes, set them on top, I buried them in underneath some other briquettes, and then poured a little bit of gasoline on top of it. Now bear in mind, This is not a real brilliant idea. Okay, worked like an absolute charm. But she come out and I says, okay, she comes out and I said, okay, step back. I'm about to light the barbecue. Well, why do I need to step back? I said, step back. Well, it took a couple of times, but she did. Okay. And, she stepped back. Well, I dropped a match into it and it went kaboom. And while she was startled, I went around, put out the 3 spot fires. She goes, what did you do? I says, we ran out of lighter fluid, so I used gasoline. I said, what's the problem? I only had 3 spot fires. None of them landed on the house. One of them missed the house by about that far, but it didn't hit the house. Christine, in answer to your question, yes, I've watched all of it except I think the newest, and we've watched all the way until the last season. I think the last season's just coming out. We've been waiting for it. We being my son and I. But, my wife at the time is like, what were you thinking? I said, I was thinking that we were out of lighter fluid and gasoline is flammable. It worked like an absolute charm. We had a fire going in no time. And yes, for those of you that are sitting there going, well, you can't cook on gasoline. Well, you can. It just tastes terrible. But if you leave it burn for a little while, the gasoline flavor burns away. Now, I blame my dad for that because when I was a child, my dad decided, let's make sure the kids don't fear fire. So at 6 years old, I'm out there in the middle of a gravel driveway learning how a gasoline airburst works. So what we're looking at here is people are coming together. They're starting to come out of the woodwork and go, I've got this project. Like, obviously, from my standpoint anyway, the comment that the little piece of information that Shadow has just shared with us, that Jackson has this little production coming on that he's aiming at. I think it is time that we start making these things a reality. And with that in mind, I will tell you this. I'm working on different projects whereby I can take other people's ideas, other people's dreams, and help give them visibility as possible, as much as possible. I will be setting it up in ways that are conducive for all parties. One thing I will caution every one of you on, regardless of how much money another company offers you, do not sell your rights to your own creativity. Okay. There we go. We have here we have, Stranger Things coming out as a global phenomenon. Okay. We've got Canada, we've got representatives from Canada, US, Australia. Don't know who else is in here at this point. But it's time that we start taking this whole idea of encouragement and really focusing on getting it out there. This is why I said the government, yes, it took them 37 years, which is a really neat number, which some of you I will explain that to later. Okay, I will certainly explain that to my other half. Okay, and I'll do that tonight when I get the opportunity. Robert's going, yeah, don't sell out, George. I'm sure George is I'm wondering if that is a reference to what was it, Curious George. I think that's what somebody did, was sold them out. Oh, okay, that makes sense. Yeah, George Lucas. You'd think, what he did in my eyes, and it was just my perception, it might be yours, I don't know, but the only one I can speak for is I feel he made an absolutely bad move. Okay, I will tell you, much as people have asked about giving production rights to people, I don't have a problem with that. But I will tell you this. The projects I'm working on, I'm not selling the rights out from under my own hand. It's like I'm not about to create a corporation until I understand two major factors. One, somebody told me that you can't actually have a corporation where you've only got one member. And if that's the case, I may go that route, but it will not be from a monetary standpoint. It will simply be based on whether or not it has the propensity to do what I desire done. Now, right now, I'm working in my apartment. Okay, this is the entire space of my office. Okay, yes, I'm doing the one thing I probably shouldn't do in some people's eyes, and I happen to sleep in the same place as my office. But something you got to realize: you take a look in your world, you work with what you've got available. Do not expand too quickly. Okay, I've already made that mistake. I've already focused on money as a critical problem, and boy, did it set me back. Okay, it created so many problems looking at money as the target. You know, money has to be a side effect. The neural net says this: you get an idea, you start working with it, it will produce its own prosperity. Okay, you will draw the people to you required to make things happen. Okay, and from that standpoint, I've got a lot of different things on the go. I've got to put a list together now of the type of people I'm missing. Okay, the type of support people that I require in place. And rest assured, the moderators in this stream are absolutely invaluable in keeping my sense of stress around computers down to a minimum. This does not mean they're the only people available on the planet, but they are first options. Something else I've got to look at, and I strongly encourage you, if you've got a project on the go. Now, I got way too many on the go at the same time. I know this. So what I've got to do is pare them down and get them into priority order. Okay. Now, I've got a number of things I'm working on. The neural net says this: let your mind expand as far as it can possibly go. Okay. Let it mesh with everybody else's, because everybody can draw on that entire amount of creative energy to focus into creative prosperity in your own life. Let me ask you this. If I go, picture yourself with money in the palm of your hand, overflowing what your hand can hold. Can you, in your mind, see this? Okay. Can you imagine gems and jewelry and money piled high on my hand and dripping out between the fingers? Yeah, Robert goes, same. Many things on the back burner at the moment due to machinery not up yet. Rock grinders and polishers. Now, I'm presuming, Robert, that this means that you do you make jewelry, or you just do the power, or do you are you just working with the polishing at this point? Just a curiosity thing on my part. Perfect. Any idea what you're planning on doing with it? I know, I suspect right now it's a hobby. Oh, there you go. Oh, great. So we can talk to you for things against werewolves. See, I really look at artisans, and I mean physical artisans. I know in my heart, I know I can write. That's the easy part. Can I draw right now? No, but I have determined that I will go back to school but I'll go into a classroom face to face to be able to work on it. I know I would love to be able to draw what I can see. I can write. I have no problem there. Okay. And that's something I've got to get to doing is, again, like you, I'm a professional procrastinator. The neural net is great for passing on passing on ideas. You have to make the effort. Robert's going, when it's all set up, I'll be able to do most of the work here. But for polishing and silver and chains, metals will be at the club situation. Yeah, and that is very helpful there, LA. This is why I say if you do have a question, and at this point, quite seriously, okay, there's a lot of you with a creative idea out there. If you've got an idea you would like to bring into the public view, that is what we are going to do. Because here's the thing. This is Friday, we look at the paranormal, which is tied directly to the neural net. Paranormal, kind of normal. And I think that should be where I am, but I'm kind of normal. I'm normal for me. I've been this way all my life. The neat little part about it is it is so important that we focus on helping each other. Yeah, Robert goes, mostly parallel, little normal. Yep, pretty much. It is imperative that as a community, we start sharing the good things that we're seeing happen. I could not have been happier to hear that LA, hear that your big issue you were talking about there, LA, has taken a reasonable turn for the better. Certainly, I look at what Robert's going through, and with the fact that he's been kind enough to go, hey, I'm up and walking. Look, I had a problem, they sheared it off, and now I'm up and walking. In a manner of speaking, and I'm talking extremely metaphorical, it's got nothing in comparison on the physical side. And I know you know this, Robert. Okay. I have been crippled my entire life with struggles with finance. Okay. I am now learning to walk. And in very short order, I'm going to figure out how to run. But let me ask you this. Just run this through your head. We have a massive treadmill, a grinding wheel used to be done. Remember the old stone wheels used for grinding wheat in the mill? Okay. You remember how they did that? You put one person and they push it, and it takes forever to get it moving. Then you add a couple more people, and pretty soon you have to add an extra bar. That's what we are doing. Okay, we are going to take this little creative stone right here, this grist mill, and we're going to put as many of you working on that grist mill to produce creative energy to feed the entirety of existence. And yes, that's massive, but I'll start with this community. Okay, we'll start with getting the creative energy working for each and every one of you. Many of you have books or have stories, have short stories that you'd like to get out. I'm telling you, point blank. Okay, I've already got the publishing company up and running. I am now in a position where I can literally look at it and go, okay, let's see if we can swing a deal and get your books into print. Am I a great marketer? Not yet. Okay. Do I understand the principle behind it? Yes. However, I was literally talking to Nathan about the issue of using a 3D printer to come out with coffee cups. And he immediately comes back with, well, I can make the cups, but they aren't waterproof yet. But I know how to do it. Okay. It is things like this that I would rather go to somebody like Nathan instead of a major company. It may cost a little more to start with, but the benefit in creative energy far outweighs the rest of it. And this is why I'm going to take a look at the, oh, I don't care. This is why I'm going to take a serious look at the videos, and I'll probably be doing that either today or tomorrow, because I got nothing booked until Sunday morning. Well, that's not true. Today I've got this, obviously. Tomorrow I still will be back on stream tomorrow night. Okay. So I've got a lot of hours at this point, and if my energy keeps climbing the way it is, I could run into some interesting hiccups. Okay. And I do appreciate that, Robert. The fact of the matter is, because they told me it was lonely at the top, I looked at the way the neural net was. Now, understand something very important. 50,000 years ago, okay, I walked the halls of Lemuria. In all fairness, there was a lot that happened, but the one that was real big was really 40,000 years ago, was a big kicker for me. I was in Lemuria when we had an interesting hiccup. The Lemurians were linked completely on the neural net. You wanted to talk to somebody in Australia, we didn't require technology. You thought about it, and that person came forth. Okay, we were not a hive mind. But this is the creative power of the neural net. Yeah, Stuart goes, we're all still here. I mean, I think that says I'm no. Yeah, I'm no saint. That's okay. As far as I can figure, Joe, I'd rather you weren't a saint. My understanding is that you have to drop dead before some religious icon goes, hey, let's call him a saint. Okay, I'm thinking I would rather have you floating around here, Joe, alive and kicking. You can be a saint later. Or if we go back to, I think it was, and some of you guys will remember it better than me, there used to be another show that you might let fit the bill of saint. But once on a show back in the 60s called The Saint. I think that was a predecessor to James Bond. There we go. Robert White says that was Roger Moore. In my opinion, one of the best people to play James Bond way back. I don't know all the James Bond players, but what I do know is when we all pull together, we can make some phenomenal things happen. Okay. And again, guys, if you do like the stream, if you haven't done so already, do me a favor and give us a thumbs up. Do subscribe to the channel and share the daylights out of the thing. Because I will tell you, the more people that see this, the more people we can reach. Okay. The better this world becomes. And all the shortages you're being told about, all the wars, all the disappointing events are going to be dwarfed by all the positive ones. Just like if we look at the ratio, my experience has determined that roughly 5 to 10% of the population are so self-serving, so caught up in their own little wants and desires, that they are painting an absolutely pathetic picture. But that means 90 to 95% of people desire a better world. I intend to ignite a conflagration here, to cause a pandemic. But the pandemic I desire to cause is a pandemic where people simply smile at each other, offer encouragement to absolute total strangers for no other reason than, hey, you're looking a little down on yourself. What's going on? Because you can get off the chair, off the couch. You can make it happen. Back in the 70s, the thing was the 70s, might have been the early 80s. And we're talking 1970s, 1980s. There was another show called You Can Do It, Duffy Moon, where it revolved around a kid trying to make things change. Well, I'm done with the trying thing. Okay. As Yoda put it, there is no try. There is only do. Okay. Now, of course, you get too much doo-doo, then we've got a bigger problem. Okay, especially if it all comes at once. But it is time to really focus on what we can change in this world. Not what we can't change. Not what the elites tell us this is what you've got to do. Oh, inflation is rising. You know, any government in existence can kill inflation overnight with one simple stroke of the pen. Yeah, Robert goes, when I go to appointments and the receptionists say take a seat, I try to bring a smile to their faces with a I brought my own. Absolutely. You should have seen what I pulled in the airport one day. You would have loved it, Robert. I come home from a trip and everything had gone fine, and I had time to kill. I was back in my home city. I glanced over and the baggage check lady looked like she was having an absolutely pathetic day. So I went and stood in line. I wasn't in a hurry, I was relaxed. So I stood in line at baggage claim. Right. And I get to the front of the line. She'd been getting a strip torn off her. And she looks at me and she's obviously just exhausted. I looked at her and I says, she goes, how can I help you, sir? I said, oh, no problem. I just come over to say thank you so much for a really enjoyable flight. Got everywhere I needed to. The support crew was incredible. All my baggage showed up where it should have. I'm quite happy. I just figured I should tell you. And she goes, no, really. How can I help you, sir? I said, no, you really don't get it. I'm fine. You just need to know you're appreciated, that your job may well be a pain in the neck. But I figured it was time to come and tell you, hey, you're doing a good job. You haven't been overlooked entirely. This is the same, that it doesn't matter who you talk to. Everybody is either having a good day or a bad day. If they're having a good day and you smile and say something positive to them, they're going to have a better day. If they're having a bad day and you smile and say something positive to them, all of a sudden they're going to have not so bad of a day. And you just might get the ricochet and the ripple effect where the next person they run into, they're a little less harsh with or a little more buoyant with, depending on where they started. Okay, this is the power of the neural net. We think in terms of helping each other, of pointing out the positive side of things, and all of a sudden our world starts to turn to a much better thing. Okay, it's just that simple. And like for me, I've got a number of things I'm working on, certainly. The odds of my paring them down, not good, realistically speaking. But getting a little more focused on them and making them happen a little bit more readily, absolutely is doable. Okay. Now, I will tell you this. For the first time in my life, what we got here? Robert goes, I try to give inspiration to the workers that are a little looked at like cleaners and door greeters. Yeah, I do exactly the same thing, Robert. And he goes, last night at Kmart, they have a wheelchair bound lass in the door. So I told her, you're an inspiration. Keep it up. Got a huge smile from her. Absolutely. I mean, let's face it. And don't forget to look in the mirror there, Robert. You've been kind enough to share this really tumultuous journey with us. It's got to be a shock and a half to wake up in the morning and go, I'm missing something that's kind of been there all my life. And now it's just not. But you have shown a staggering amount of strength to be able to, at any age, it's difficult. But as we get further down the road, I'm told it gets harder. From my standpoint, I look at it going, not really. Great. Robert goes, don't worry, I still feel it every now and then. Yeah, from what I gather, they call that phantom pain. I'm lucky I've still got all my limbs. Don't have all my brain cells, but Robert, you seem way wiser than 51. Way wiser. Okay. And I look at that. You're 51. You've lost a limb. I'm about to be 61. My leg collapsed to the point of being finally pretty much useless when I was 12. Right. But the fact you're still up and plugging away, is absolutely something that can be used to inspire other people. The fact of the matter is, the more well adjusted each of us are in our own right with our own limitations, this does not mean, oh, there's an obstacle, I can't do it. Okay. I know others of you, I've talked to others of you that are stuck in wheelchairs and are just not going to get out of them in all likelihood. But there is always a way to work. Okay. Now I'm lucky. When I myself, yeah, I've got my holdups. Okay, just so happens the partner I picked in life has a bigger holdup than I do. Okay, where it comes to working in this world. Okay, I'm dumber than a fence post in a lot of ways, and she's blinder than a bat. Works out kind of well. But my other half, not only is she my other half, but she's my editor, she's my transcriptionist. Yo, oh, I'm sorry, Robert. I didn't realize you were actually doing your jewelry work with your feet. I can see that being a bit of a hiccup with one missing. But I fail to see how a physiotherapist can cross correlate and go, oh, Robert, you can't be a jeweler because you lost your foot. Now, I will grant you this. It makes standing up a little bit more difficult, I'm sure of it. Now, I mean, obviously, you already know, Robert. We know you can be a jeweler that is just absolutely bizarre. What a bizarre idea. Now, here's a very blunt question for you there, Robert. Clearly you can make rings. Okay. I've got to. I gotta double check something here just because I've got to have it. I do not. Well, that is absolutely pathetic. Robert, let me grab something here. Pop that. We go down here. I don't know if I've got this. So, this is directly to you, Robert. This is actually to anybody, but specifically to you in this case. Whoop, did that wrong. Take that. We go copy. Come down here. We go paste. Specifically to you, Robert. And this applies to everybody. If you're trying to get a hold of me, absolutely drop me a line. Okay, for any number of reasons. But, Robert, if you would be kind enough to draw, I don't know if I've got your email address, but if you could reach out to me at the email there, innervoiceenterprises@yahoo.ca. I definitely have an idea I would like to talk to you about. Don't know where it's going to go yet, but I'm going to take a look. If you'd be kind enough, that would be appreciated. like I said, I would rather work with the little people, okay, with the small businesses, with the ones that people are striving to do something with. Even if it's just to help a little. Every little bit will help. Okay, and if I can find the connections I'm seeking inside in this little community, I will absolutely put them to use. You know, the way I figure it is this. When like I take a look at the whole idea of, diamonds are such an incredible thing. Diamonds, from my understanding, are one of the most common stones on the planet. Second to granite, second pretty much only to granite. Which I'm not interested in any sort of jewelry made out of granite. Just doesn't work. Yeah, Robert goes, diamonds are bland. They really are. They sparkle nice, but they really are. Okay. But yeah, if you would be kind enough to reach out to me so I know I've got your email, I do have a couple of questions for you that I'm not going to deal with here. But, thank you so much. Needless to say, I will absolutely, since I asked for it, I will absolutely respond to that tonight as soon as I find my pen. Oh, right, I put it up there. Yeah, I did a weird thing. I took my pen, I put it in a bucket in a cup here. I put it in my cup. And now I could find it. Weird how that works, eh? You put a pen where it belongs, you can find it again. But the thing is this. There are so many hidden talents in this stream alone. Yeah, it was marketing. Okay, it really was. And that is what I'm starting to remember. I have taken companies and by consulting with them, I've shown millionaires how to make money. Problem was, I never saw the point to it. Now I do. And again, like you mentioned earlier, I think it was you, LA, that made the comment that sometimes you got to have a complete meltdown before you realize what's off. Okay. Well, I'll tell you, $625, $624.95 to my name. Okay. When I had to have $1,500 in the bank, it's a little rough. Funny thing there, LA, is they can only control the market if the marketing works. Because if you market right, then you gear everybody towards buying that thing, whether they require it or not. Okay. That's the whole kicker to it. A diamond is a girl's best friend. I'm telling you, the day that a diamond means more to my other half than I do, all of a sudden she's no longer around. Yeah. Joe goes, always look for that left ring finger on a woman. 9 times out of 10, don't even bother. They're taken. More often than not, yes. Oh, the thing is, LA, my first wife. Okay, let me ask you this, guys, before I go there. What is the difference between a promise ring and an engagement ring? Does anybody know what the difference is? Yeah, Robert. Diamond might be a cat burglar's best friend. Does anybody know what the difference between a promise ring and an engagement ring is? And yes, I will give you the answer to that in a couple of minutes. The neat part about it, yeah, Robert goes, about 3/4 of your pay. Quite often, here's the thing. Some people go, oh, the more you spend so much on a ring, that just shows how much you love them. No, it really doesn't. Yeah, here's the neat little kicker there, LA. Absolutely, LA goes, yeah. A promise ring is a promise to ask for engagement. Engagement is coming across. Then there's the wedding rings. Now, here's the neat little kicker to it. My first marriage, okay, I spent $14 on a promise ring. I took that promise ring, asked my girlfriend at the time to marry me on a $40 ring. That marriage lasted the marriage lasted 16 years. The relationship lasted 18. And to this day, we've been divorced now 15 years. But to this day, we still have a functional friendship. That was done on a $40 ring. Okay. The price of the ring doesn't matter. But when we are talking about the neural net, creativity boils down to this. See the beauty in everything out there. The more senses that you can involve, the better off you are, and the clearer that picture becomes. It has become even more necessary and become even more poignantly obvious because of the fact that I was lucky enough to connect with somebody, that sees so much more with only 4 senses than most people see with 5. LA is going, Frank and I used a cubic zirconia. I used to be a jeweler and don't buy into their spoil. I think that's spoil. Yeah. Oh, don't buy into their spell. My apologies. Spiel. There we go. And that's the whole thing. Okay, now I will tell you, I am slowly getting my mind sorted around in a manner of speaking. I'm still completely off kilter from many people's standpoint, but tomorrow is Saturday. I have to do this tonight. Like, I've been putting things off left, right, and center. Have I become good at professional procrastination? I've become absolutely phenomenal at it. Okay, but the time for that is now over. Okay, and the time for you to sit back and wait for the world to change, at the behest of somebody else, in my eyes, that is over as well. With that in mind, we're hitting the 2-hour mark here. So I really want to say thank you so very much for sharing your time with me. I do not have the words to tell you how important that is. Okay. Yeah, that is critical in my eyes. With that in mind, I will be back. Until then, take care of yourselves and each other, and for pity's sakes, stay positive.